Ben Hewitt. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing great, Angus. I'll tell you, I can't be more excited to join to commentate this excellent, excellent round.
Very lovely. All right, mouse is audible. Yes on both. Heck yeah.
Now, guys, I tell you, we had a repair, and it was nearly disaster because Reanimator versus Lands was also the previous pairing, but fortunately, Lands has picked up in such prevalence that we get treated by this again. Fate was supposed to have his cast. What are we leading off here, Angus? With?
This looks like it could be. I was going to say Explore, but we didn't follow up with the second land drop. What do you think about the prevalence of Lands? It feels like it's coming back now. I haven't seen it in a little while, and suddenly everyone's playing it.
I mean, look, I love Lands. I think it's a unique. It's definitely a unique archetype. It's something which I'd say like Legacy Lands is very, very different to Highlander Lands. Highlander Lands have to have many more different plans than just going all in on depths all the time. So yeah, it's fun to see. But I really want to know what this card is, what this card is played is.
I'm sure it's a banger. At least cost 1. Too much text for Explore. Yeah, Exploration. We're thinking Exploration, but it can't be Exploration, surely. Otherwise, you would take full advantage of it. It's all right. I'm sure it'll become apparent to us very soon. But
this is where we need that CSI enhance.
Exactly. You know? Zoom, very prevalent. Enhance button, they haven't quite figured it out yet unless you're on CSI. But yeah, we'll find out soon enough for sure. Temple Garden by the looks of it. Expedition map.
Yeah, Expedition map. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Looking a little bit green, but it works. We're going to get our third land here, but doing it in front of everyone.
I think that's either Strip Mine or Wasteland. But it's like one of those alternate promo arts.
Yeah, I would say so. It could be the Expedition. And Tomb on Jake's side. Jake's playing a version of Reanimator that's also doing the scam thing.
Yeah,
so like, yeah, I kind of like that a lot because you, if you're playing Rakdos Scam, it's kind of awkward because you don't have 4 copies of Not Dead After All. You don't have 4 copies of Persist or whatever. You don't have 4 copies of Grief, which is what you really need, you know. But Reanimator, they don't care if you're going to like Fury and then animate Dead the Fury because Fury's still a huge creature, you know, and you're more than happy to attack with it.
Now, so I think it's taken from the Legacy Reanimator, obviously, which they do get to run the 4 Grief to protect their combo. But in Highlander, and this is the beauty, we get to see some other many cool cards, you know. Like I can see a Fury in the hand here. I'd be interested to know if he's also running the Carnosaur, these kind of cards which pitch themselves.
Yeah, I did see him flick through it before, so he's definitely playing the Carnosaur. Very high variance card, especially when playing lots of cantrips. But, you know, for anyone who knows the delirious feeling of getting that Fury or getting that Carnosaur and like hitting a Fury, woo, it's really nice.
Let's have a look at what the game state is. So our Lands players led off with Expedition Map into grab Strip Mine, I'm pretty sure. And so Jake's Entombed for Atraxa, that's like the dream opening, is deciding Faithless Looting, is putting Archon and Daze into the bin. I think the feeling here is that he wants those extra lands because he doesn't want to get strip locked out of the game.
Totally.
And he's also not super concerned about counter magic because he knows he's playing Jund lands.
Yes.
So yeah, this makes sense.
Unfortunately, you are telegraphing to your opponent what you are trying to do when you Expedition Map in your first main phase. And Jake's sitting pretty here. He does have that. He has a ring in his hand, which is kind of fun.
Yep.
But we definitely see the Exhume as well.
Now, what have we got here? What do we got here from the Jund lands player? It's a 3-mana black spell.
Something pretty spicy here. I'm looking really close. Looks like an Animate Dead.
Oh, right,
it's as easy as that.
Probably Necromancy, right, for 3 mana?
Oh, yeah, I would just say so. And we're doing resolving our Atraxa here, but super scary when you're playing the Reanimate deck is that lots of people are playing Reanimate. I think in one of our events, it was like 1/3 of the field was playing Reanimate, which is huge. And
in fact, at CanCon, there were more copies of Reanimate than there were of, I think, Entomb and even Thoughtseize.
Yeah, right.
So it really is, and it's kind of a bit now like a bit of a prisoner's dilemma where, because it's not just stuff like Atraxa and Reanimate players. Everyone's playing an Oliphant or everyone's playing a Troll. If you don't do it, they're going to be doing it. So everyone which can play it, everyone kind of does.
And that's like what we see with Ubiquity pointings as well. Is that the best way to beat a troll is best way to beat Troll Reanimate is to reanimate your opponent's troll. Best way to beat a Fury is to kill your opponent's Fury with your Fury. So it's like same with Bowmasters. Like it looks a lot different if Reanimate becomes a point or when Fury becomes a point. Is that these cards that are like they're a pain because they're ubiquitous. They actually just become less ubiquitous.
All right, let's so we've got an exhume here. So the reanimation players found his reanimate, which fortunately the Archon is going to get rid of the attracts of the body. Maybe too much value has already been accrued, but this is a game. This swinging. We've had the absolute nightmare scenario, getting your attracts reanimated, but the perfect follow-up of putting.
Yeah, that was really nice, and we will see the card discarded as well. Thousands of printings available to us all, so this one not familiar to me, but that was really nice actually, the Archon, and God, it's been explosive play after explosive play since turn one. You know?
Absolutely. And Angus, what do you think? So you're a seasoned reanimator, if I don't say so for myself. Obviously, Jake kind of came into this a little bit blind, not knowing that getting his Atraxa reanimated was a possibility. Do you think that in game 2 and 3 we're going to see him holding off the Entombs until he knows for a fact it's follow up with the reanimation straight away? Or do you reckon it's just better to have that target in the bin, even if there's a bit of a risk?
I think it's an interesting play style and something that you only have to have your creature reanimated a couple of times for you to be like, oh, I'm never doing this again. Yeah. You know, like I don't want to leave my Atraxa in the bin just in case, because everyone is playing reanimate, as we said before. So it's just like statistically, it could probably happen. So gone are the days of turn 1 Faithless Looting, turn 2 Exhume. Like I'm very often, I'll just go for that turn 3. Like maybe I Thoughtseize first, or maybe I Brainstorm or whatever.
Check that the path is clear.
Just like check the path is clear, exactly, and try and do it all in the first turn.
I think we've got a Dark Ritual here from
yeah, looks like it.
And into Sheoldred. Okay, so really going to punish that Archon player, but the Archon will offset its own the life that they're going through. We've got an interesting comment over here from the chat who's saying that the instant speed nature of Necromancy can make it awkward to go off even at instant speed.
Oh yeah,
that might be true. I suppose the kind of the what do you call it? I guess the insurance you got against that is if your opponent's leaving 3 mana open all of the time, you're not feeling a huge amount of pressure.
Totally.
And they only get to keep it for a turn, so obviously very good at the track, so they get the whole trigger, which is the bulk of the effect, but maybe not such much of a big deal with, like, I don't know, Archon. People can usually live through one trigger. It's really the second and third and fourth, which
exactly. Yeah, that is interesting, and it could be tech exactly that Ben is trying to do, is that he is trying to play that instant speed version so that it can get that surprise reanimation in response to your opponent.
How do we feel about this Ren and 6 strip mine? Obviously, it's if Arkham wasn't on the field, this would be a massive deal. I guess Jake's got to be thinking, can that Lotus Petal cast anything which kills the Archon? But oh no, look, he's taking this threat seriously because he's pre-combat furying it. Yeah. Perhaps he wants the Archon trigger to actually make him sacrifice the Sheoldred. Yeah, exactly. Fury, of course, only dealing 4 damage, so kind of just takes the choice away from Ben just doing it himself. But Archon's like no joke. I mean, it's annoying if it goes away quickly or whatever. You still get your ETB, but it's one of the less powerful ETBs, I suppose. Maybe like third. Honestly, I love this card.
Okay,
When I've played the reanimated decks I've brewed, now granted these are not necessarily the best reanimated decks, but I've found even flashing Archon in at a turn, getting the trigger, then reanimating at the following turn, or playing Shallow Grave.
Speaking my language.
Like Shallow
Grave is 12 damage, you know, baby.
It's a lot of damage. It kills 2 things, it draws 2 cards. Like, I think Archon, making Unmarked Grave get something really excellent, it really has. I think turn the Reanimator around. We've got a Collective Brutality here now. What do you think the choice is here? What have we got?
Let's see. I think our opponent's got their own Fury and a Minskenbu and Besagio. I'm going to dare say that the Collective Brutality is going to hit nothing.
Yeah, it's a total whiff. I mean, good thing he didn't escalate to, you know, not that the drain would have been that meaningful.
Yeah.
That looks like it's game. No answer to Archon.
No ifs and or buts. I mean, we saw that earlier Traxa, and it drew, I think it actually only drew a three cards, I think, of the Sheoldred and the Lotus Petal and the land. Yeah. Which is kind of unfortunate because if a Reanimator player ever puts the Atraxa on the battlefield, especially if they're playing the enchantment package, it's like you actually just set yourself up to reanimate again.
Yeah,
you know, absolutely. You get the creature, you get the Faithless Looting, you get the Necromancy or whatever, and it really works for them. But if you're playing Jund lands, like maybe you're just playing more creatures, obviously playing more lands, you know, so it's like a little bit less influential, and I think Jake was pretty happy that it wasn't a draw 5 and just a draw 3.
Absolutely. Is that Mental Misstep on the sideboard? That might be the first time I think I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
I've only got 2 cards sided in here for Ben.
That's interesting. I mean, Faithless Looting, Thoughtseize, Reanimate, Entomb, like, there are your opponent's misstep, as we astutely saw in the comments. there's plenty of options. I wonder if he's just more concerned about the density of 2-drop enchantments or Exhume. That's like maybe he's just running the numbers and he's like, maybe I don't care. But even getting a Brainstorm is great.
Yeah, I like maybe Ben knows something we don't hear. He might also just be feeling, generally speaking, that kind of going 1 for 1 might not be the best. Maybe he's feeling like he needs to put on pressure. But even then, I feel like I'd want that missteps. So many lines for Reanimator involve casting 1-mana spells.
Totally.
What have we got over here for Jake? He's going past the Blast, obviously. Maybe Blue Blast you could consider against Jund. It can kill Minsk and Boo.
Yeah. I like bringing in one. I like bringing one Hydro Blast, but I think like adding the extra one is probably a bit of an overkill because you do really care about those black spells, the kill spells, and those sort of like big creatures.
You'd feel very silly if you had a hand or 2 blasts in it, and your opponent went like Dark Ritual Shieldred. You'd be like,
"I've been there, baby. I've been there. It's not great. It's not great."
I think we're taking Exhume out here, probably respecting the fact that his opponent's likely to have Troll and Oliphant and stuff like that. Given that his lands.
I think if you're playing Necromancy, alarm bells are going off in your opponent's brain, you know? It's just like, okay, this Exhume is not going to be as good, which is awkward because Exhume has all these, like, other sort of slight benefits, you know? Like, there's a benefit of, like, not targeting, which means that if your graveyard gets wiped before the Exhume resolves, you can Entomb, which is, like, really hot. Or as you mentioned before we started talking, the Brainstorm Surveil lands, you know? Like, there's lots of options there for you.
I wonder if Jake's on... Have we seen any Surveil lands?
I know personally that he's on 3 Surveil lands.
Surveil lands.
Which is kind of wild, but you know, whatever. Worked there for him.
We say is wild now, but I actually think this might be the future of 7-Point, you know? I think nearly everyone should be running 1. And I suspect that more decks should be running 2 than they think. You want both sides of your fetch lands to be able to get 1.
Yes.
It does make a lot of kind of previously super uninspiring turn 1 actions be something kind of serviceable, you know? Surveilling a totally useless card in the bin is almost like drawing a card.
Absolutely. And we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But we saw so many Lorien Revealed and Trolls and Oliphant, as you were mentioning before, but these are also kind of tapped lands.
True. Now, do we see any lands out in Jake's hand? I see Consider Faithless Looting. I see Necromancy. Oh, we've got a Surveil land, one of the aforementioned. Ponder and Okay, this is difficult.
This might not be enough.
I think that if that land had a blue pip on it, he'd be keeping it. No, he's kept it. Okay, so
he's got the Faithless Looting.
True.
So he kind of can do something, but something that I just noticed as we were starting up for as the game was starting was that Ben has a Noxious Revival in hand. So for players at home, green Phyrexian to put regrowth but on top of the library, but it's instant speed and you can target anyone. So great for getting rid of those reanimation spells at instant speed or getting rid of those reanimate creatures. But damn, more than once when I was playing that card, you just put a fetch land on top of your opponent's deck or you put a land on top of your opponent's deck and just like be annoying, you know? Like there's lots of benefits to it for sure.
So it looks like we've got Faithless Looting out of Ben here and we're discarding Carnosaur and we're also discarding, let's have a look. We just have to wait and see here. It's a bit of a tricky decision, evidently. We're waiting with bated breath. This is going to be Faithless Looting into... There's going to be a lot of looting this game.
Oh, yeah. We'll see if he's playing any fast mana. He might be like less inclined to do like scammy fast mana stuff, but like Dark Ritual would be great right here, you know.
True. Do you get catch a glimpse of what that card he put in the graveyard was? It looks like it's a green card. Is that... Oh, no, it's an art of... Is that Zuranor, maybe?
It's something. It might be Fallout Wasteland, maybe, or no, not quite. I've seen the art on that one.
Maybe it is Fallout Wasteland, although
it's definitely something.
He'd be kicking himself if it was. They'd be kicking himself if he didn't knew Jake's hand.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. If he was deciding that Wasteland was not the time, he'd be sorely mistaken because Jake, he did find that second land, which will cast that Ponder, will cast that Consider. And the Animate Dead, you know, he's well on his way, absolutely.
Dark Ritual, we are zooming.
Oh, yeah.
Sneak attack.
This is not exactly Jund lands.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing like Necromancy and stuff. Maybe this is the mirror and we just didn't know.
That's right. Is this just Jund? It's kind of almost like Jund mid-range Reanimator versus Grixis more all-in Reanimator, perhaps.
Yeah.
Having said that, we have seen Strip Mine, so... You know, there's maybe it's like Reanimator
Ren and
with a
6
angle.
Okay. It is possible. Like maybe that's just your sideways plan. Like Life from the Loam is like a mill spell, you know?
Absolutely. What have we got here? Is this...
Ooh, Animate Dead targeting the Oliphant. I believe the Carnosaur, nice.
Once that
and we're just gonna go for it again. And this is sick. Ben's really happy about this because he might have done that anyway, you know, to put the Carnosaur on top for the sneak attack. But now he gets to do it and waste his opponent's reanimation spell.
Do you know what this so is that Animate Dead there?
It is, yeah. It's got a dinosaur Atali, a zombie Atali on it, which is very pretty.
Okay, so we're discovering here what we're discovering into life death. Okay, so we might be reanimating that Oliphant as well. That puts a lot of power on the field.
Yeah, if it is an Oliphant, he's decided to put it in hand. I'm not 100% sure. It's definitely, and we've seen this in a couple of rounds, it's just all the promo cards. Every promo card that you can find, and now suddenly we have to learn every single version of every single card. But yes, he has decided to put the Life Death into his hand for later. And this Trumpeting Carnosaur, we might see it again soon.
Look, I suppose he might be thinking, I'd rather just have another weak go at the Carnosaur.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, when I'm playing against the combo deck, I feel like surely you want the clock. But I guess Oliphant is only 4. Oh, here we go. Necromancy, we're seeing a lot of this Carnosaur.
This Carnosaur is getting a lot of attention today.
Dragon's Rage channel.
Yeah. Kind of an empty graveyard. This is like one of the times where you feel okay about it, but that's not breaking anyone's back. That's just a little bit of extra value off the top.
Absolutely. What do you think about these kind of early low to the ground mid-range creatures? Like we've got your Ledger Shredder, your Jade's Vryn's Prodigy, Dragon's Rage channel. Do you like that in your reanimation plan, or do you just want to stick to the spells and the big creatures?
It's an interesting question. The cards that I'm mid on but are really, really good, Ledger Shredder and Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Yeah.
I don't like that you have less control.
Yes.
Ledger Shredder, the timing is really awkward because you actually just want to be like Faithless Looting, reanimate, but your reanimation spell is the one that's going to trigger Connive. So it's like you're kind of like a little bit awkward on timing.
Yeah, you can't really be on the baubles and things like that. There's too much air in the
deck. But I mean, if a really powerful magician would be able to cast that Exhume, let the Connive trigger resolve, discard the creature, then let the Exhume resolve. But so there is lines there, but I think where you draw the line is probably what type of deck you want to be. So Jake's kind of like Lutri, like some people don't want to put their points into Lutri, but it's like a counterspell in your back pocket, but you have to like dedicate yourself that, yes, I will get to 3, 4 lands, 5 lands or whatever to make that Lutri worth it. Like you're kind of setting the tone for what your deck will do when you're playing Lutri.
I suppose with one of the advantages of Lutri, and specifically the Scaminator archetype, is that being Reanimator, you run a lot of black cards, but you want to reanimate Fury. So Lutri kind of always being that, that red card.
Yes. Blue card for Force of Will, red card for Fury.
All right, let's see. So we're deciding between Inquisition, Volcanic Island, and what's that last card? Grizzlebrand.
Grizzlefather, Full of Grace. Blessed be thy name. Gonna go with the Inquisition, then the Volcanic Island.
Yeah. So he probably wants to maybe get one more land drop and then surveil that. Oh no, we're surveilling right now. Interesting. I almost would have liked him to stack the Grizzlebrand the other way so that he could have surveilled the Grizzlebrand into the bin.
Yeah.
But maybe he's trying to avoid his opponent reanimating. He might be thinking something like, the only way I lose this game is if my opponent reanimates it. So he's just trying to protect it until he really wants to go off.
Absolutely. And he has that benefit. He can always punch off this Consider in his upkeep before he draws a card, which will give him double Surveil essentially, but it's like the Surveil that he wants is the one that puts Grizzlebrand in the bin. So maybe, as you said, he's just like holding it, just like hold, wait for the right moment to go for it. Maybe he's ahead anyway, whatever.
Look, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the other thing he's thinking is like, look, I clearly have the initiative, not the actual initiative, but the spiritual initiative.
Yeah, sure.
My opponent needs to answer Carnosaur, and so why don't I just keep him reanimating the Carnosaur? Like, it's unlikely my opponent's going to exile his own threat here. All right, what have we got? We've got
a reader here. Us two. Let's get really close in there. No luck. I think it's a legendary creature.
It does look like a legendary creature. Too much text. Fire design.
That is exciting. Well, he's thinking about casting. It's 1 mana.
It's 1 mana.
1 mana legendary creature. Yeah, it's not Ragavan.
How scary can it be? I mean, it could. No, sorry. He could be sneak attacking it in.
Oh yeah, right. You are. Okay. Well, it's something. It's definitely
This is
something.
where we need enhance, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So we've asked the question, we've put it on the battlefield, and now it's on to Jake to decide whether or not he wants to respond. If he ever fetches that land, he has to say goodbye to the Grizzlebrand. I don't know if he wants to like look for an answer or not, but he's gone for it.
Grizzlebrand's gone. I suspect, to be honest, he doesn't want the Grizzlebrand in the game. I think
This is huge.
Yeah, I think he's thinking to himself, the Carnosaur is enough, my opponent's pressured enough.
Yeah.
Grizzlebrand is one of the ways which I lose.
Yeah, and he had the life death in hand, no longer on because life totals are a little bit funnily designed,
Yes.
but 6 on Jake's side and 9 on Ben's. We're going to do this consider now, but
double Savale you're talking about.
I think he's dead, yeah. It's funny that he attacked with the Dragon's Rage Channeler because he had to for the maths, because if he didn't get in that 1 point, he wouldn't have had enough. Is that right? 7, 8, 9, 10? No, he would have had enough if he didn't attack.
I think it's all. I think it might be Ulamog, it might be an Eldrazi. That would make sense. Okay, so there you go. This is the power of sneak attack. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's particularly sneak attack when you've got cards like Atraxa and cards like Archon. You know, threats which draw other threats.
Yeah.
You know, even discovering into Once Upon a Time or something like that
Yeah.
can mean that you only need to sneak one thing, and then your opponent, of course, has to worry. Well, what's coming next?
Again, the fear of the unknown really separating the big players from the littles. But poor Jake, I mean, this was like really unfortunate. I don't know if I would have been so aggressive if I could afford it. I think the mass lines up in his favor, unless he had to attack with that Dragon's Rage Channeler.
I reckon, honestly, if you're facing out a sneak attack, you need that game to be over as quickly as possible.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing which, I mean, he couldn't have life death the Grizzlebrand. He didn't have the title for it. So yeah, it might have been the case where it looked like he was ahead, but when there's a sneak attack on the other side of the field, any fortunate top deck. So it really looks like Ben's not quite on Jun lands. He's like on Jun sneaky lands or cheating, scammy lands.
This is like more Reanimate deck than a lands deck, you know? So it's just like, maybe that's a side project, but yeah, a little bit of a typo, I suppose. I looked through the deck and I was like, oh yeah, lands, cool, that's fun. I see a Dark Depths, you know?
I mean, when you see Wasteland and Strip Mine and Ren and 6,
what else are they doing?
That's right.
This is like shows the power of Reanimate as an archetype. Kat says how many colors to the in the Reanimate deck. So Jake's on Grixis and Ben's on Jund, of course. But the answer is whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, you can be Grixis splash green white. You can be Grixis splash green. But this is like where the Reanimate archetype really shines, is that you can play Grixis mid-range splash Reanimate. You can play Jund lands splash Reanimate, you know, and it's just like you can actually just have a package of 6 cards, say Atraxa, Grizzlebrand, and then 3 reanimation spells, maybe Archon of Cruelty as well, and then like that's not that much that you have to really put into make a Reanimator deck deck, and then like you can do whatever you want after that.
That's true. And look, I want to get some predictions in the chat. I want to hear. We've seen a victory from both sides. Who does this chat think is going to take away this game? Jund versus Grixis, similar strategies but with slightly different plan Bs, or maybe they've got the same plan B but different plan As. Who do we think is going to take away this game? Who do we think is favoured? Is it going to be the Grixis deck, which is a bit more focused, a bit more streamlined, more likely to go off sooner? Or do we think it's going to be the slightly more mid-rangey, resilient Jund deck, which, you know, can take advantage of the fact that the Grixis deck is putting things in the graveyard first?
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Angus? Who do you think is going to take this one away?
It's kind of funny because I saw Minskenbu, I think, from Ben's side. It feels like Jund is teched harder the matchup, given Reanimate's popularity. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. Also, you have the mana denial. So I think, honestly, if you went the mana denial pathway, you're probably good. But I'm gonna put my money on Jake as the scam player. I think that Brainstorm, Ponder, Preordain is like what lends it to be, as you said before, focused, you know, and Jund is like, you're basically doing other stuff to circumvent the fact that you don't have card selection.
Yeah, maybe it's something like, to be doing the unfair thing in Jund, you need to be high rolling. But maybe the medium plan is a bit better. Like you'd rather be, you'd rather be playing your Minskenbus than just spinning your wheels looking for the spell. But if this game goes to the unfair zone, perhaps Jake has the edge. I think I'm going to put my money on Jake.
Okay.
I could be wrong. Obviously, anything can happen, you know, like just because a deck is favored doesn't mean it wins the particular game. But I think just the power of the, you know, having more reanimation spells, being able to do the entombing and stuff at instant speed and turn, I think that's where we're going to see. So let's have a look at these hands here. We've got, it looks like Trop, Marsh Flats, Inquisition of Kozilek, Necromancy, Blue
Oliphant.
Elemental Blast. Is that Oliphant there?
Yeah, and a
What's
Douthy
that?
Voidwalker.
Oh, Douthy Void. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be excellent. And on the other
It's gonna
side, what do you see from James?
I think that's a Fury and then a Dark Ritual and then I believe some lands, although he must have, this is his 6, I believe, so it must have been, there must be something good that we're not seeing. That's an Animate Dead, I believe, on the far left.
Yes.
That might just be enough, honestly. Dark Ritual, if your opponent's like, if your
Turn my
opponent's
Faithless
turn
Looting,
Faithless Looting, you're like, hell yeah, you could Faithless Looting. Oh man, I've been dinked by that before. I once didn't have anything but go to draw step, go to end step, go to clean up, discard a creature, and I had to like not play a land to make that happen. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing, and then my opponent on their turn 2 just untaps, casts Animate Dead, and I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm never doing this again.
So it looks like we've seen a bottoming of the Tropical Island from Jake and a bottoming of the Forest from Ben. So both of these players opting to go with the action rather than the land. There's a Boseiju there. That's Reanimate. It's Polluted Delta and Animate Dead. So Inquisition.
Banger
Yeah,
hand.
he cannot remove his opponent's ability to reanimate. But I do think perhaps compelling your opponent to maybe use their Boseiju rather than use it on your Animate Dead by taking Reanimate, or perhaps he'd rather take away the Animate Dead and make his opponent use his life total, given given the kind of clock we could see here. So let's see what Jake does. What do you take here? Do you take Animate Dead or do you take Reanimate?
I think I'm like not too far away from taking the Dark Ritual.
Right.
I know that sounds kind of funny, but it's like, what is Dark Ritual doing here? Maybe. It's like taking the Dark Ritual is kind of the spicy line because your opponent's not doing anything, and you do have control over how your stuff is reanimated. Like, we'll see if Jake does like this sort of turn 2, put Oliphant in the bin, and then the next turn take it out of the bin. But Jake's got the Blue Blast for the Fury, so that's not really a problem. And
or the Oliphant for that matter.
And well, that's right. And the Oliphant, if it gets a little bit sideways.
I think I agree with Jake's line. I think if your opponent had a Shielded or something, the Dark Ritual seems plausible.
Sure.
I think that there is a big difference between Reanimate and Animate Dead, and the life. We've seen that, for example, if Ben was on 6 less life last game, perhaps he could have found a way to finish it out. I think making your opponent pay the life, particularly when you know they have the mana to cast the Animate Dead anyway, is the way to go. Now, what we've shown on Archon, we're cycling Oliphant. He won.
It's kind of funny. You're like, this is where, again, we're going to see a really interesting decision point because Ben's like, why the hell are you doing this? You know I have the Reanimate in hand. I can very easily take your Oliphant. If he does, it could be pretty bad. Losing 6 life and then getting a blasted is like kind of shit, And like now Jake presumably is going to get a Volcanic Island to meet the requirements of the Oliphant and also the Blue Blast.
Or do you get a Badlands because you want to be able to, or the Savale Land, you don't want to not be able to cast your Douthy Voidwalker. You know how good it's going to be in this game.
Yep.
So it's going to be the Savale. Clearly he's okay to Blue Blast on the next turn.
Yep.
I think Jake's playing this perfectly. He's got the right sequencing. He's knowing not when to rush things, and I think he's representing to Ben the idea that, which also happens to be true, I just need to do this because otherwise I'm going to miss my land drop.
Yes.
So that might be giving Ben like this false sense of security, like I can do this. Putting Ashiok in the bin, but yes, it would be uncastable for several turns. So I think a lot of players would be tempted to keep the Ashiok here, given how good it is in the matchup. But I think
it's just annoying that it's on top of your library.
That's right.
Like, I guess your next play is kind of locked in a little bit, but what would be really nice is if you could go untap, Blue Blast, Doithy Voidwalker, pass the turn, and then you don't have to worry about your opponent's nonsense for a little while. Ashiok kind of does the same thing that Douthy's doing. Obviously, Ashiok better stopping those fetch lands, stopping the Sylvan Scrying or crop rotation if we're seeing it.
And when your opponent's playing things like Reanimate, even having one of those underneath the Douthy Voidwalker leads to some very good lines. So
absolutely.
I think Jake's taking a really disciplined approach here, and he's been rewarded for it.
Yeah, and he's a pretty experienced Reanimator player as well. There was at the start of the year there was a big event in Melbourne that he top 8'd as well with a similar deck.
Right.
He's no
mug.
He knows what he's doing. I think once you buy a Bazaar Baghdad, you form part of the cabal, and Jake's like, well, I guess I'm locked in for a little while. But yeah, it's interesting to watch him play so well.
Yeah, so we're going reanimate here from Ben, and I think he's right. I think he has to do it.
Yeah.
But he's not reanimating the elephant.
Oh,
he's
interesting.
reanimating it looks like one of those prototypes.
Phyrexian Flesh Gorger.
Which is going to be, I believe, a 7/5 menace lifelink with ward. If Jake wants to target it, he has to pay life equal to its power.
Ouch.
Given it's been reanimated, that's 7. That
Ouch.
is a lot of life.
There's a lot of life,
Particularly
and
when-
not what Jake was expecting
That's
when he
right.
was like, I'm going to put this Oliphant in the bin.
Yeah.
Ben's 10D chest him and said, well, what about this Flesh Gorger?
Yep.
It's not blue. I don't know if it's not red. I don't know if he was playing around it or not, but he did it really well.
And the lifelink, I think, is going to be very relevant in this matchup. So
Yeah.
Douthie Voidwalker coming probably just a turn too late. But, it is what it is. Sometimes you don't get the land drop, right on time. Okay, let's see what we have here. He's got to be feeling worried about that thing getting furied.
Yeah. Let's see if we get a peek at the draw on Ben's side. No, he's playing open, which is like not required at CanBrawl. That's why we get your pencil and paper out. But also there's like the fun bit where he's putting all the cards that are secret face down. But good for all of us.
Look at that 14-point life swing. Just
Ouch.
Unbelievable.
Massive, and it really undoes all the problems that Reanimate was causing, which is losing a big hunk of life.
That's right. And perhaps in some ways, even though I agreed at the time, maybe in this particular game, giving him the animate dead might have been superior. But anyway, let's see what we got here. Looks like we've got life from the loam. So he's got just a polluted Del to pick up. Now the question is, does he start aggressively dredging? Like how many cards does he have in there? Is he going to be dredging every turn looking for strip mine, or is he just going to say, you know what? Oh no, we'll doubt the Voidwalker exiles us. That's not going to be
I think
possible.
Ben was thinking about that. Ben was thinking about it, and Jake's like, no.
Yeah.
You can stop thinking about that if you want. Douthie Voidwalker, of course, exiles everything that goes into the graveyard with a void counter on it. So we have entered the void, pour life from the loam. Casting it, I mean, I guess, why not? You just cast it so you can also hit your land drops. Looks like both players are kind of fumbling in that way.
I think you'd probably rather just have the Douthie Voidwalker stopping the possibility of further reanimation.
Yeah.
But I think really, from Jake's perspective, he's under the pump here. He hasn't got any card selection. He hasn't got a way to remove that Phyrexian Dreadnought. He's just hoping for like a careful study or some way to discard Archon, or even for his opponent to play something like Faithless Looting so he can get rid of that Archon and Necromancy it.
Because I don't think it lines up really well with the Oliphant. And also Jake has this Archon in hand and he's like, I want this Necromancy to be on my Archon. I don't want it to be on the Oliphant because then suddenly I'm back to nothing with a 6/4. And 6/4 is fine, but it's like, it's not going to win this game, No,
and isn't that crazy? Because the Oliphant not only would be a 6/4, but it would also increase the power of that Douthie Voidwalker.
That's right.
So it would represent as much as 11 points of damage, many of it trampling, but that's the power that Phyrexian Dreadnought with lifelink. And I love this in reanimated decks. Having lifelink on the creatures is the way where you don't have to be defensive. You can keep the pressure on, and the lifelink is your defense. So is that another Surveil land here? Yep.
Yeah, looks to be. Misstep and Noxious Revival facing off. I don't know why we don't see Noxious Revival with as much prevalence as Mental Misstep,
Yeah, look.
Noxious Revival can stop your opponent's Noxious Revival,
Certainly, if every deck turns into a Scaminator, Jund lands, with some straight Reanimator, Esper Reanimator, then we might see it.
Yeah, maybe. And the Flesh Gorger, this lifelink on the Phyrexian Flesh Gorger is huge.
It is huge.
It's huge. Jake can't do much anymore, He's on 5 life. If he ever draws a Reanimator, he's going to smack himself in the head. It's not looking great for Jake in this game 3.
And I think the menace, I believe Phyrexian Flesh Gorger has menace, but it means that the Douthie Voidwalker having shadow can't block it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Molten Collapse here. We've got Blue Blasting the Molten Collapse. I believe that goes with the Voidwalker. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We have an opportunity. However, unfortunately, it's the ward on that Phyrexian Flesh Gorger is going to bring him unstuck. Ordinarily, you'd be jumping for joy. Okay, it's time to Douthie Voidwalker that Molten Collapse and Molten Collapse the Flesh Gorger. But now, of course, the ward on that's going to kill him.
Oh, that's unreal. Ward is Ward pay life. You're like, I hate this.
Yep.
I hate this. So it looks like we're having a little bit of. We're having some issues, but it might be the end of the game anyway.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And you know what? I think he actually did it and didn't realise that the ward. Oh no! What it is? Oh no! He's looked.
Okay, he looked.
Okay, thank God. I thought we were about to see maybe the first big misplay from Jake, but no, he's read it. He's a good player.
Good.
He's
he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's up to. Just check to see if this is still frozen. So the top, give me 2 seconds. I'll see if I can go and fix this camera,
Right,
but tell us the story.
All right. I hope we're all enjoying this commentary, people. It's isn't this just the best format to see? I don't think there's any other format where you're going to see Phyrexian Clash Gorge be the MVP. And certainly it gives Ben the scam angle. Okay, so we've attacked for 7. Jake has to do something now. It's now or never. Is he going to be Necromancy? Now, I believe in Necromancy's instant speed, it dies straight away. So I don't think this is going to do it, but we're going to have that Noxious Revival in response, and that's going to show down with a misstep. So the free counter magic and suited counter magic is happening. We have Oliphant, but I don't think the Douthie can block because it has Shadow, and I don't think that isn't the text on Necromancy that it dies straight away? Or maybe it dies at end of turn. We're going to have to see. Dies at end step. Okay. But I don't believe the Douthie Voidwalker can block. No, and that's it. So Jake might have been representing that he had a blocker, but of course Shadow is not just unblockable. It means that you can't block. So Ben with Jun lands takes it away. Phyrexian Fleshgorger. What a card!
What a card!
7 mana, so 7 power with the lifelink and the ward means that card is a 14-point life swing as soon as it gets one attack in.
Ouch!
Any removal, 21-point life swing. You only start the game with 20 life. You know?
Yeah. That's unreal, and unfortunately I got to, as I was fiddling with the cameras, I got to hear Jake on the way out saying, oops, I goofed, because I think he was planning on that not having menace, being able to block.
I think the reason he goofed, I don't think he realised that the Shadow on the Douthie Voidwalker meant that it couldn't block.
Yeah.
It feels like it's unblockable, but Shadow's just one of those mechanics where it's not as good as well, but obviously it's very good. If you're aggressive, it's perfect.
Yeah.
But this is again what I love about Highlander, like these edge cases of can this thing block because my opponent's reanimate target has menace.
Yeah.
You just don't see it.
No, you don't.
At 7 point.
And I think Shadow, a funny keyword that didn't see play at all for a long time, except for very edge cases again where you can slip through.
Yes.
No, there's one of the.
But it's the slip through space, but instead of unblockable, it's Shadow. I think it's called Shadow Rift.
Shadow Rift. Yeah, absolutely right. Shadow Rift gives a creature Shadow, and then you draw a card. The benefit of that is that you can give your opponent's creature Shadow, and then they can't block.
That's right.
Kind of really interesting.
You've got one attacker and they've got many blockers, sorted. You've got many attackers and they've got one blocker, also sorted. Excellent card.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the Shadow on this side not being as exciting for Jake, not being able to block there was quite painful for him. Menace huge, what did we say? It was a 7/5 as well. That's really massive, really hard to get rid of. And Jake died to the Phyrexian Fleshgorger. Maybe we need to reevaluate its power in this format.
Look, I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't discard itself, but this is, I guess, the power of Ben's plan B, being this mid-range plan, is that playing it for the prototype, having a mid-range plan where you do maybe do a little bit of ramp, makes it a perfectly serviceable threat outside of having to reanimate it.
Yes.
And that is the advantage which these mid-range decks which these more Riskaminator, Grixis style decks don't, is that it's on the cards, so to say, to just cast these spells and get the advantage that way.
So annoying to have a 3/3 Menace lifelink ward.
I know.
Ward pay 3 life, I hate that. But yeah, that's Ben and Jake mostly done. We've still got about 10 minutes on the clock. So I guess we'll take another break and we'll come in for round 6. Ben, thank you so much for joining me. That was a lot of fun.
If there's any more rounds to be casted and there's other people not wanting to commentate, I'm happy to come back. But I guess it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to see, particularly commentating with you, this Reanimator heavy. It was a real treat.
A real meeting of the minds for all of us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
No worries.